one of the values that our society wants to have defended at this time is nature around us and the river and all that it supports. There are 380 bird species using the Colorado River Delta, and those are some of the same birds that end up in Alaska, in Minnesota, in the hunting grounds.
Protecting the Colorado River Delta is a domino effect that has a lasting impact on our local environment. The river is a resource for many southwestern U.S. states, along with parts of Mexico. Coming up with a fair and sustainable agreement has been a challenge, but is becoming a trial and error process.
Even though it was completely dry, some parts of the river are back already, and we're gonna see that, and that's the important part. I think that's the way human beings we learn, we mess things up, we realize we shouldn't have done that how do we bring it back to that?
The Colorado River used to flow all the way to the Sea of Cortez, but with declining water levels, less rainfall, and lack of conservation, the bodies of water no longer connect.
As this flows, so this pale blue polygon shows how was the floodplain on the 85s. So it used to overflow the repairing corridor all the way Laguna Salada and hold the upper and lower story.
The goal of Revive El Rio is to connect the Colorado River to the sea in Mexico, to restore ecosystems and bring in more life.
The quantity of life this water sample can support. So if there's a lot of oxygen, there can be more life. Less oxygen, no life.
This chart analyzes water samples and changes color by the amount of oxygen in the water. As you can see, the sample is almost clear, meaning there is no chance for living organisms to survive. In 1994, the U.S. and Mexico signed a binational agreement, assigning water only to cities and agriculture, leaving nothing for the environment.
For Mexico, living with a dead river has been, I'll say, sort of a wound. And this is a little bit of repair. That said, it was not easy to get that U.S.-Mexico agreement. It was reached in the context of Mexico agreeing to do things like share in shortages with water users in Arizona and Nevada and California.
The water in this area of Laguna Grande is less than 1% of what it used to be almost 100 years ago because of a treaty that was passed between the United States and Mexico back in 1944.
Some people think that in conservation, why do you want to invest in that if you're not going to see the changes, right? But you are able to see the changes.
That's why Mexico is encouraging everyone to act now before we get knee-deep in a drought. Animals, trees, and humans are dependent on Colorado River water, including beavers that prevent the water from flowing too quickly.
They feed on the bark of the trees, mainly cottonwoods and willows, and they use the rest of the wood to make their dens, which are floating dens, and then they build like a little dam. Why is this important? The beaver is like an umbrella species, we call that. If we save the beaver, we save a bunch of other species.
Once the dam prevents water from flowing in the meander, their den floats because the beaver's entrance is underneath. Other wildlife like skunks, squirrels, and rabbits rely on the floating dam to cross the river. Saltgrass is also dependent on river water, according to hydrologists.
When the water reach, start to evaporate and look like a white area, so it's from salt from evaporation of the seawater.
All the residue left from low water levels is salt, the only beneficial aspect for saltgrass when water levels are low. The plant lives in the estuary, a part that connects the river to the sea.
The system of the irrigation networks channel in order to move the water from the border to this area and discharge the water here and let the water go to the sea.
About 40 miles south of the border is where the river ends.
Behind me right now is water that's flowing from an irrigation canal. It's actually Colorado River water that was diverted at the border and is here being returned to the river. And it's actually going to flow for a little more than 4 months into October.
Every drop of water you can save helps restore the Colorado River Delta. Reporting from Laguna Grande in Baja California, Mexico, April Hedinger, 13 on your side.